here tonight and to do this presentation. I was a little concerned. Someone said I should be concerned because they were concerned that everybody that comes tonight would be Republican because everybody else is watching TV. I said, I don't know. I said, I'd like to take a show of hands. No. But anyway, it's so good that you did turn out after all. That is a rather interesting event going on too at the same time. But in this part of the world, there's always a conflict, right? When I was preparing this, one close friend of mine said to me, asking Jerry Phillips to do 41 years of history in 60 minutes is like asking him to recite a dinner menu in under 6 minutes. Now, for those of you who remember the verbal menus, that's a good private joke, because everyone was always, and the staff was trying to get me under 8, you know, to get those menus. So, but Mark is a hell of an editor, you know, and it's slash and burn. So we have worked hard on this presentation to keep us there. I think a lot of you remember the movie, the Disney movie, Cinderella, A Dream is the Wish Your Heart Makes, and that song, well, it certainly has a meaning for us. And the truth is, Mary and I really didn't plan a business. We built a dream, that's the truth. And then we crafted a business around it. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. That's a great fun shot. You know, there's something about this curved screen, by the way, that everybody in the middle, because of the curve, gets stretched out, gets a little fatter. If you notice that, yeah, if you just notice that. You know, Mary and I visited Bayfield. We're first going to talk about, of course, the discovery of the end here. We first visited Bayfield in 1969 on our honeymoon. We were musicians. We were teachers. We were performers in Madison. And we remember this trip well, very well, when we came to Bayfield. We were staying actually in the Lac de Flambeau flowage, and we came up to Bayfield. We left Hayward in a terrific storm, and we arrived in Bayfield to just this amazing sun-drenched day. The lake sparkling like a million diamonds as it was today. And the thing that struck us, though, was that the town was extremely quiet. And there were for sale signs everywhere. We were stunned when we saw the for sale sign at this beautiful house that we now call the Chateau. With all of its original landscaping, its magnificent trees, the original fountain, and the carriage house. We walked up to the door, knocked, and a nun, much to our surprise, opened the door and graciously showed us around. We didn't realize that it was the nunnery, the convent for the Catholic Church at the time. Well, we left Bayfield that weekend thinking that we had found some secret jewel in a jewel of a town. And in the succeeding couple of years, we just kept visiting, and our fascination grew as this amazing house remained unsold, and the price kept coming down. We kept traversing the town, we kept going to the island, visiting the antique shops, and we simply fell more and more in love with our little secret place. And then we began the dream of having a little cabin in the woods. And in the spring of 1972, as we again traveled north, but this time with our infant son, Mark, we decided that if this house was still in the market, we were going to place an offer. enormous sadness, it had been sold only weeks prior for $22,000. No money down, interest free. I can tell you very honestly, it was the longest trip home to Madison I had ever made. We suddenly realized on the way home the role that a dream plays in one's life. We realized that we had slowly created this dream over those years of owning a home in this very special place. We left Bayfield with the realization that we needed to come to grips with our dream. We had to make a plan and to move on it. So the following spring we returned to Bayfield, committed to pursue that dream despite our setback. And we actually went to visit the new owner of the chateau. And we discovered that there was another exceptional historic home on the market in excellent condition with 7 fireplaces instead of just 5. And it was located right on the main street, downtown Bayfield. Well, when we drove up to 301 Rittenhouse Avenue that afternoon, we were astounded. We were astounded most because we had never seen the building. And we discovered why. The current owner had removed countless thick, 50-foot-high evergreen trees that had been growing from the porches of the house right to the street, completely obscuring the house. It was a virtual forest. And unfortunately, those trees, as all of you might know, or homeowners, can cause mildew and fungus, and preventing airflow, encouraging rot. So the new owner that year had invested an awful lot of money and removed every single one of those trees, had to completely resoil and resod, and he had to repair and completely repaint all the porches, all the building. He added a new roof, and then he went inside to refurbish the rooms. You can't imagine our astonishment, because it was just as though, well, we knew every house in town. We've been running those streets for 5 years. It was almost as though that house was built just that spring, just came up out of the ground, just for us. So we were not about to miss the second time. But we couldn't find the real estate dealer. He was out of town. So Mary and I just put 5 $100 bills in an envelope and slipped it under his door. That's what we did. How crazy is that? So soon we had our summer cottage. And then we arrived the following June in 1974 with our 3-year-old son in tow, excited to enjoy our summer away from our busy teaching and music lives in Madison, thinking that we would just enjoy some fabulous peace and quiet. But almost immediately, we were beset with calls from lodging owners in the Chamber of Commerce to open some of our 7 bedrooms to guests, instead of sending them out of town. Well, that's when we discovered something. We discovered that the house had a history of being used for lodging by various previous owners. The locals knew that history, of course, and they knew that we had purchased the house totally furnished, right down to the sheets, towels, china, furniture of all kinds, and even a bottle of Dom Perignon. Nice guy, So after a little while, weeks went on, we finally gave in, and we took in a few guests, and we found out that we just loved it. And the rest, as they say, is history. We went back to Madison that fall of 1974 with a very different dream beginning, a dream of sharing our beautiful home. You know, we returned in 1975, and we had so much fun sharing the house with our guests. But we were not interested in offering just what we thought of as traditional lodging. We had envisioned something else. We had come to envision a more personal, a more intimate kind of experience. We dreamed of being in the business of creating experiences rather than just renting rooms. We also wanted our guests to experience the area. We wanted them to experience the history, the culture, and the resources. And so soon we began to balance all of that and come up with a modern interpretation of this house, and yet with all of that beautiful room, the quality linens, the antiques, the original art, and we then became the concierge, helping guests to plan their ultimate vacation. There was one major drawback, and that was that there was one single bathroom down the hall. So, by 1975, we were already at work putting private bathrooms into two very large closet spaces. And this continued until all of the rooms had a private bath. Now, as an aside, had there been more time, had you been more generous, there are many, many funny stories centering and relating to that one bathroom. But we're going to have to leave them. But in the meantime, to wet your whistle, you could buy the cookbook. Because Mark has a few of the stories in there. I think what the fun part about doing that book, taking the big plunge. Eric Hoffer says that the only way to predict the future is to have the power to shape the future. And I think Mary and I felt so strongly about that. We were so tight on what we wanted to do. We were so tight about the dream. And, but of course, there's this side of it. There are dreams, and then there are, goals with deadlines. Well, by the end of the summer of '75, we began to again re-dream our dream. And as we envisioned it, we could, as the saying goes, we thought, have our cake and eat it too. If we started an inn, because you have to remember, the word B&B was not invented back then. There was not such a term. And so we thought of an inn. And we have all these warm, fuzzy thoughts about an English inn, or one out in Maine or something. And we love the idea of having both rooms and a restaurant, even though we were humanities majors. Get that? Yeah. As one person said one time when we were struggling, he said, "What the hell do you expect from a couple of humanities majors?" Well, imagine having a business with all the things you loved. We loved people. We loved service and hospitality. We loved food and preparing it. We loved old houses and restoring them and filling them with antiques and, lovely things. We loved music and theater. And we loved, most importantly, to work and live side by side every single day. We loved the idea of raising our son in a small town. And we also wanted to be a part of that small town in some very intimate ways. We wanted to be a part of helping Bayfield to rise again after the loss of the fishing industry. And we loved history, and now we were living in it. This is the kind of dream we dreamed. Who could imagine it? Who could ask for more? So we set out to develop the business plan around it. And we had to set a lot of goals based on all of that to create that vision. And thus was born the Rittenhouse Inn. One of the goals was to create a restaurant. It was Mary's decision to open that restaurant, and she would head it. Her food, her style, her personality was pretty obvious and everywhere. I used to tease the guests that she was far too busy in the kitchen to greet them, but it didn't matter, she was on their plate. You know, food's a pretty personal experience, actually, when you think about it. And a chef, they're sort of on your plate. We were quickly very busy. We were serving 3 seatings 7 nights a week, the last seating starting at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. The inn was really a restaurant with rooms, not as we see it today, the other way around. Mary has amazing gifts. She is such a multitasker. If you're in the kitchen business, you had better be good, and she is good at multitasking. I used to love watching her cook as she had pans of jelly or jam on the back burner she was stirring, and she's answering the phone, and she also made out all the bills, and she had all the taxes in her head. And she was also running the rest of the kitchen, of course. She has an amazing memory, and she could remember what every guest had. And of course, God, could she cook. A favorite story involved a guest who came 3 times, ordering always a steak medium rare and a potato. On his 4th visit, he ordered Mary's special that night of scallops and shrimp in pastry with a sauce of cream, white wine, and herbs. Well, she was dumbfounded. She made that waiter go out 3 times to check to make sure it was the right table, the right person, and the right man. You know, it was just hysterical. Well, finally, she sent out the order, but she sent it with a personal note to him that if this was not to his liking, that she had a medium rare steak prepared with a baked potato. Much to his astonishment and embarrassment, actually, which we didn't think about. Mary's restaurant was really known for local and fresh, long before that became the restaurant buzzword it is today. Cultivating many local sources. How well I remember the first of those wild leeks and fiddlehead ferns and wild blueberries, chokeberries, wild plums, watercress, edible flowers, wild mushrooms, and more. Mary assembled this interesting collage of colorful gatherers and growers who were enthusiastic about someone who actually had an interest in their knowledge, talents, and their products. And they were immediately reflected in the meal. And because we had a verbal menu, which by the way came about because our printed menus didn't arrive in time, knowing not what to do, we sat down and memorized the menu. But because we had this verbal menu, Mary was delighted. She could cook whatever walked in the back door. You know, it was amazing. You know, whatever road killed it, no. Soon her restaurant was known for a lot of hallmark dishes. Steak stuffed with oysters, that melt in your mouth pork chop, those beautiful, right out of the lake fresh trout and white fish dishes, her champagne chicken, those amazing school to teach future innkeepers. It was during this year that we came to a realization and a new dream. We wanted to be back at the inn. So we returned to Bayfield, excited to be home. Well, it was the right decision. For the next year, our son Mark and his wife Wendy asked to join us in business. And it took us about 3 seconds to figure out an answer. They had just had their first child, Kyra June, as you see her here. As you can tell, I don't like her. Well, we were thrilled. We had never spoken to Mark about being in the family business. As we never, oh, there she walks in the door. Good timing. Your timing, Kyra June, is absolutely impeccable. We had never spoken to Mark about being in the family business, as we wanted him to follow his dreams just as we had. The transition began slowly at first, but gathered speed as we all became comfortable. And we never thought of the end moving beyond our generation, I should say Mary and I, as it was such a personal dream and such a demanding one. But we knew, however, that many of our staff had come to share and mold that dream. Certainly my sister Julie was one of those, and she has been indispensable to this day. More pictures here. Yeah. My favorite picture in the middle, Kyra kissing her little baby brother on the day he was born. I love that picture. That's really special. Well, there's Julie with Wendy. There we go. See, your timing is awesome, you guys. Next came the Great Recession. Thank God we had a couple of good years after Mark and Wendy joined us, or I think they would have both gone back to graduate school. Actually, the late 90s into 2000s was a very good time in our life, and even 9/11 didn't really slow business down. One explanation I always heard was that the 9/11 frightened folks away from the big cities in order to vacation in the countryside, where most B&Bs reside. So business continued strong until 2008, and then the bottom fell out. I still have difficulty with the word recession, as this has lasted way too long for a recession, folks, at least in our industry and in our part of the world. For over the next 6 years, we lost 1/3 of our business. We cut our maintenance budgets, we cut our staff, the family worked more, we kept careful count of pennies in and out, and began a serious effort to install, yield management. You get the picture. Finally, in 2014, the business leveled off, and in 2015 began again to grow. Certainly all I can say was the deepest recession I ever want to be in. Now, I will turn it over to Mark and talk about the regrowth and the renewal.
Hi, everyone. Well, the past 3 years at Old Rittenhouse Inn have been marked by an extensive effort towards regrowth and renewal. It all started with a little loan to help get our kitchen going that Scotty here helped with. And from there, we've just kind of never stopped. And we've kind of realized two things right away. First, that was due to the recession. We had been delaying those much needed repairs and maintenance, and we knew it was time to get that turned around. Second, I think as our marketing manager, I realized that our marketing had become a little stagnant. And we had beautiful rooms, we had great dinners, but business was off still, and it had been since the recession started. So we wanted to show the world what we had to offer, and we simply did not have the photography and the photos to do our rooms and food justice. So what we did was to schedule 2 photo shoots with Christian Gianelli. He is a Philadelphia-based artist who is known for incredible architectural and food photography. So he flew here on 2 separate occasions and shot every guest room, all the exteriors, and hundreds of food dishes. And many of those ended up actually in our new cookbook as well. The food shots in particular were really tough, 15-hour days under hot lights, trying to catch that perfect shot. It's very difficult. I soon discovered, though, that as long as we kept feeding Christian and his assistant, that they'd work pretty much indefinitely. So we just kept pumping the food and taking shots for, about 45 hours straight. So newly armed with these great pictures then, let's see. We rolled up our sleeves and went to work. And wanted to create a new website, first of all. And really, the idea for us was to keep this really simple and uncluttered. And lots of big pictures, lots of white space, which was so hard for me because as a writer, I tend to be a little bit flowery in my prose, and I've really made big efforts to learn to edit myself. And the website, it's no different. You really have less is more. So we did that. We had so much information to convey, though, as a business that has lodging, dining, weddings, special events, cookbooks, CDs, gourmet products, all these things that we do. So we achieved their goals by creating micro-sites within this main site, much as larger companies will do with when they have multiple product lines that they sell. So I thought that was kind of a neat concept, and it has worked out very well for us. Then, so I'll show you a little picture of that, kind of what it looks like. It's mostly pictures, and we found it converts about 3 times better than the old site with lots of text. So those of you who have websites, and I'm sure you can appreciate that. At the same time, we were barreling full speed ahead with multiple projects. And for years, we had longed to write a new cookbook. Really, for 10 years, this was a real big dream of mine because right when Mom had her stroke, she was just finishing her first cookbook. And she still had some work to do with the publishers. She never got to finish that, but Dad and another chef kind of took over, got that first book published. But it had been out of print for many, many years. And so what my initial idea was to just revise and expand that first book that you see there. As we met with our new publishers from Lake Superior magazine, it became clear that we all wanted a little more from it. We wanted it to be a coffee table book, to have beautiful photos of Bayfield and all the food and attractions of the area, as well as history of ourselves and some of our stories, and of course 88 recipes, I think, as well. So we set off on a wonderful project to get that done. Released it in 2014. It is called the Rittenhouse Cookbook with the meals and memories from the historic Bayfield bed and breakfast. And this book won 2 Midwest Book Awards, gold medals that year. It's full of great pictures and all that. So that can be found at the inn and also on our website. I want to move ahead and talk about this lovely wall. All through this time, we were also going full steam with improvements to the properties because it was really a triple pronged attack. We wanted to improve our services, improve our properties, and improve our marketing all at the same time. And as part of that, we knew we had to do something with the retaining wall. It was a wonderful sandstone, historic wall made from locally quarried sandstone. And I remember my dear grandfather, who was a mason, fixing it in 1977, carving my name onto one of the blocks. And, we had been fixing it ever since. And finally, the year before this, a big section fell down, about a 10-foot section fell down, and we knew it was really time. We had to do it. So, let me say, there is nothing sexy about building a retaining wall. Even if it's 500 linear feet long. In the past, when we've created new rooms or new menu items, there's always some kind of immediate gratification or reward from, seeing our guests enjoy them. And also the instant feedback from them too. And with this project, of course, it's more like a necessary evil. There obviously will be no cash flow coming in from this wall. But as, we sort of realized that not doing it would result in diminishing returns as well. And we just wanted it to be looking great. So we broke ground in spring last year with this project, and we're done by the end of the summer. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I think it gives the inn a real solid foundation now, and I won't have to worry about it again, hopefully, in my lifetime. Also, last year we painted the entire chateau. Here you can see the bucket truck up there. We're doing that this summer, painting the whole Rittenhouse this summer. So in the last 3 years, we first painted the cottage, then the chateau, and now the Rittenhouse. So we'll have them all done, hopefully within a couple weeks. We're just finishing up. We had to fix all of that dental molding and the soffit there on the porch level. So that is all getting done. Those two are all dressed up as well. You see Tad Pavla up there working on that soffit. And it's kind of coming together. Now we've come quite a bit of way since then. So we're almost done with that as well. I would say this project here was much more daunting because of the elevation. And obviously the Rittenhouse sits on a big hill, and it's 3 stories tall with an attic above that. So we did hire professionals to come from Duluth. We rented the biggest bucket truck we could find, and they kind of did all the high-end stuff on the top. And then we are going to finish all the porches now in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. So come up and say hi and check it out. The new paint job, I think, really makes it pop, because always before a lot of this detail work was all just painted cream. So now it really kind of sets off and it's nice. So, of course, now we'll have to go take all new pictures again. So we're coming right back full circle to where we started 3 years ago. Now we want to talk just for a moment or two about the future, because we have completed hundreds of projects in the last couple of years, but the real work, of course, is never done here, and there will always be a need somewhere. So our duty then is to identify the areas of need constantly, make a plan, and get a budget set and get it fixed. So other things we've been working on, we've replaced all the decks, exterior doors for any of the rooms, which have added some real brightness in there. Let's see if I can find one of those. We have all new hand-carved signs that were made for the businesses. Plans for the future. Well, Dad has written here, Mary and I are passing the torch. Now the dream is being redreamed. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, but certainly we also really do hold to the original dream and the past and have a very fond connection to that. But we do also look to the future, and some things that we have coming up. We have a wonderful little carriage house that is located on the chateau property, and I think it will make just the greatest little honeymoon cottage type getaway that you'll ever see, with some extensive work. Also, we're kind of always keeping our eye on the markets, waiting kind of for that perfect opportunity to come along. So if you ever hear of it, come up and I'll buy you a drink. And also, one of our main focuses this year is to really improve our restaurant business. There is new competition popping up all over the area every year. I think you all know and have seen that. Our market is getting a little crowded in the restaurant field. And also, I think the way people eat is changing and has changed over the past few years. I think that although our signature, lavish, long, wonderful 5-course dinner is still incredible and people love it, but we also need to add in other choices and options for guests, and so we have done that. Our new menu offers appetizers, small plates, soups and salads, lots of different entrees, and everything can be had a la carte, or you can still also have the wonderful long 5-course meal as well. So those results have been really pleasing, and clearly people are enjoying that a lot. So we'll be promoting that extensively in the upcoming months. And again, there's always a chance that we'll acquire another historic building in the area and give it the Rittenhouse in treatment. There are a few real gems that we've had our eyes on for years, but I think real estate is a little bit like drinking fine wine. You definitely have to be patient. One thing we've been discussing lately, though, is expanding into businesses outside of seasonal hospitality business, of course, which is our thing that we do. But maybe looking at something where cash flow is a little more consistent from month to month, not quite so seasonal. And we do have some good ideas in the hopper about that, but I'm not going to let too much of that out yet. So just kind of wrapping things up here, I would just say that we've been going strong for over 40 years now, and we are so fortunate to have a great, loyal clientele and a good reputation. That means really so much. And we're kind of known as a place for special occasions, romance, those sorts of things. And you know, being located in the best little town in the Midwest certainly doesn't hurt. We love Lake Superior and our community. Our community is amazing. You can't even really put a value on what that means to have neighbors that you can love and trust and who help each other out anytime, not just when the times are tough. So we're very thankful for that. Good people who go out of their way to help. And today, truly, we're surrounded by great people. Our guests, our employees, our family, and again, our community. Yet, when we want to go away, get away from everything, and find some solitude, it's right out the back door. How lucky are we? It's a little hike away. It's right there. So I guess, you know, one thing is to always remember, have fun. You know, we still have fun. We still goof around at work, and it's, you know, we're very serious about what we do, but we also have a lot of fun and laughs too, because that's important in life. And in closing, I would just say that there's Dad and I, 91. We consider ourselves most fortunate to be caretakers of these incredible old houses, and for all the people that have enriched our lives and our inn with their presence. With the 3rd generation of our family starting this summer, we're confident that the inn will be in good hands for many years to come. Thank you all for listening tonight. We look forward to the opportunity to serve you in the future. Thank you.